Okay, I'm going to go ahead and expand the sites all folder again. And we are in the steps directory here. We're going to open up the 6th step, which is called unmanaged file display. Go ahead and copy the entire code and paste it over the code that's currently in your assets.module file and save it. Okay, I'm going to scroll up to the top of the file, and so we can start up here at Assets menu. We've added an item here called assets/unmanaged/view. So this is the path we can go to view our display of thumbnails. We're giving it a title, a description, and the callback is assets display unmanaged files page. So let's go ahead and scroll down and take a look at this function. Okay, here we are. We're going to start out by creating an empty string variable. And next we want to set our directory. So we're in the public assets unmanaged directory. Now this is the directory where we are uploading our files to. Our next step is to read through that directory and find out what's inside of it and then process the files that we find. We can do this by running a function called file scan directory. This function will take as a first parameter the directory that we're going to scan, and the second parameter a regular expression that says what we're going to look for in that directory. So for example, we might want to look for just JPEG files or just GIF files or just some file of an extension or of a particular name, and we can use this second parameter to pass a regular expression. We're passing it dot star, which says that we're going to match any character any number of times. So this will match anything that's in the directory. We can also pass options to it to set a regular expression for items that we don't want to match as well. But we're going to keep this simple. What file scan directory will return is an array of file objects. Typically, you'd see file objects more with managed files where there's a database entry for the file along with additional data in that files table. But in general, objects are a handy way to encapsulate metadata about an object, so file scan directory uses that convention. Next, we're going to loop through this returned array, and for each one, we're going to build some output. Now remember, we're building thumbnails for each one of these, so what we're going to do is just create a wrapper div, some HTML. We're going to give it a little bit of styling to allow multiple images to wrap, so we're using a float for that. And then we're calling a theme function. Now, if you're unfamiliar with theme, there's a whole section of it in the Drupal 7 Core Concepts videos. But what we're doing is calling the function theme underscore image style by passing as a first parameter to theme image style. And this is a core function that allows us to take an image file and convert it to a particular style. In previous versions of Drupal, this was called image cache. In Drupal 7, it's called image. And it allows us to set the height and width of an image, for example, as well as other parameters, such as if we're going to crop it or resize it. And we're passing it an array of data, including the style name. In this case, it's a core style called thumbnail, and the path to the file. And notice that we're using the URI that's in the file object. In our next line, we're adding a link using the L function. We're calling it view full size image. And this function, file create URL, is going to come in handy. This allows us to take the URI from a file and create a URL that's publicly accessible in terms of public files. In private files, at least accessible by the users with access to those files. So this is a way that we turn a URI into a URL that can be copied into a web browser or used, in this case, as a link to that particular file. So when we click this, we'll go to the actual URL for this image file. And then we're just ending the wrapper div here. I'd like to show you what the file objects look like. So what I'm going to do is set a breakpoint here, right after we're running file scan directory. And So I'm going to scroll up to the top and take a look at this item in Hook Menu. When we go to assets/unmanaged/view, what will happen is we'll stop the progress of that script right at that point so we can take a look at the files in that directory. Right now, there's just one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and copy this path, and I'm going to jump to the browser. Now we'll need to clear our cache in order to register this new page. So I'm going to the Home button and flush all caches in the Admin menu module. Okay, we should have our new page registered now. I'm going to go ahead and paste it into the browser. Let's take a look at what the result is here. Okay, we have our funky image here, and we have our link down here to view the full-size image. So things are working well. Let's go ahead and click this link and see what happens. Perfect. We wanted to see the full-size image, and that's exactly what's happening. And if we take a look at the address bar here, we'll see that our file is in the sites, default, files, assets, unmanaged, and then the name of the file. So that's that directory. Okay, let's go ahead and go back. And I'm going to turn debugging on, which will allow us to take a look at that files array. And I'm going to refresh the page. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the editor. And we've stopped right here in the execution. You see the yellow arrow. And down here to the left, we have our files array, which we can expand to look at the items inside. I'm going to go ahead and expand the first item. There's only one item here, and this is a representation of our file. The URI is the key for this object, and then there's three properties. There's file name, which if we scroll over is just the file name itself without the directory path. The name of the file, which is the file name minus the extension, and then the URI, which is the identical to the key. In this case, it's public, assets, unmanaged, and then the name of the file. So this is the data that we get to work with as we're looping through the file object. So you see here, what we're doing in our code is we're passing the URI property of the file object to the image style theme function.